If you offer a split pay for your course or you have a subscription business, you absolutely positively have run into the issue of a payment failure. Credit card failing, you following up with people to see if they can update their information, having to remove access if they don't respond, or even worse, having to then like restore their access if they get back to you. There are so many manual things that have to get done. And I personally know people that even though they made more money with a split pay or with a more regular subscription, for example, monthly versus annual, they actually stopped offering altogether because they didn't want to deal with all these manual things, not knowing that most of it can be automated. If you know what this channel is all about, you know I'll show you how. So stay tuned. If you're new to this channel, my name is Isaac from Optor.co, and we've helped over 50 companies automate more than 500,000 tasks using local tools like Zapier. And I started this YouTube channel to share the work that we do and hopefully help some education and service-based businesses like yours focus on what they're good at while letting automation do the rest. In this particular video series, we're discussing the most common post-purchase automations that you may want to set up for your subscription offer. And I'm illustrating the process using ThriveCart, Kajabi, CirclePro, ClickUp, and ActiveCampaign as the main tools. These are essentially a checkout system, a course hosting platform, a membership, a project management, and an email marketing tool. However, the same concepts can be implemented on any platform that integrates with Zapier or that is capable of receiving or sending webhooks. So if you have other tools, I still hope this serves you, but I had to pick a tool to showcase these examples. So let me share my screen and let's get into it. All right, so here we are looking at what would be the recurrent payment failed automation. I'm going to walk you through exactly how it works, but I should mention that this particular video, I'll have to cover not only this automation, but two others that are related and that are essentially the automations that follow this process, just so that you understand what we're aiming towards, okay? So I'm going to explain three different automations. Bear with me. The first one is this one. When a recurring payment fails in ThriveCart, you can use that as a trigger. And what you're going to do, you're going to increase a counter by 1. In other words, you want to store somewhere, and you can do this with a built-in Zapier tool, that this person payment failed for the first time. Now, you have path available within Zapier so that you can say, if this is the first time the payment fails, update their contact information at ActiveCampaign and add the payment failure tag, okay? That payment failure tag will trigger an automation within ActiveCampaign where you're going to send emails to this particular customer of yours, letting them know that their payment failed and encouraging them to update their billing information. If the same SAP runs again, what's going to happen is that eventually the counter will get to a number that maybe you would consider the customer already canceled to an extent. It's called Canadian cancel. It's the term I've heard when people they want to cancel, so they'll just not tell you and simply allow you to remove their access, not update their information. So an example would be, say, if their credit card fails for the 4th time, you're going to go ahead and actually cancel their information, their subscription, sorry. And what that's going to do, that's going to trigger another SAP, which we haven't talked about, but I'm going to talk about now because it's part of this same recurring failure system, okay? If you automatically cancel, it's going to trigger this other SAP where you're essentially going to remove their access, okay? And you're going to tag them as canceled, and you're going to remove their member tag. You may also want to label their task on a project management system as canceled, so people know that this particular client or customer canceled, okay? However, there's another option, right? If they happen to pay successfully, you're going to want to do this other thing, okay? Essentially, what you're going to do is, if they pay and they had not yet, actually, this is wrong, should be lower than X. If, for example, you're using 4 as your threshold to consider them cancel, what you're going to do is you're going to have another SAP that every time someone pays, you're going to try to get the counter that relates to that person, okay? The counter is the one that we created here in the payment failure. If you can't find it, it means this person credit card has never failed, so you simply want to ignore it. But if you find it, you're going to tell, okay, is this less than 4? Meaning, have their credit card payment failed less than 4 times? In which case, you know their access still not removed, and you're going to go ahead, simply delete the counter so that when this SAP goes through again, it's not going to find anything here and ignore this particular path. But and then you're going to want to remove their payment failure tag so that you don't continue to email them about them updating their billing information because you already was able to charge them successfully. Okay. Lastly, if it's four or more, this would be in the example of someone who you were unable to charge them a fourth even after 4 attempts, so you removed their access, but now they were able to have a successful rebuild. So in this case, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you restore their access and retag them as member, because remember, we actually they went through the step number 3 where we canceled their membership, we added their cancellation tag, and we removed their member tag. So we want to reverse those changes here. Okay? So at a high level, I'll recap, because I know this is intense stuff. If people fail to pay, you have a path so that the first time they fail to pay, you start emailing them, and that's it. If they fail to pay X number of times, 4 times, for example, then you're going to cancel the subscription, and that cancellation will trigger another SAP that will remove their access. So far, so good. Okay. Now, if they do pay, you want to know if you removed their access or not. If you did remove their access, you'll restore the access. And if you haven't, you'll simply remove that payment failure tag and move on. Okay. I hope that's clear. We'll get into the weeds now of creating this particular step number 4, this particular automation number 4, and testing it in real life. So let's get to it. All right. So we're here on the Zapier dashboard where we can see the 2 workflows we've covered so far. Check out the link in the description if you want to check those recent videos out. But we're going to go ahead and create what will be workflow number 4. We are changing the order here, but it makes sense to create this one first, and then we're going to create number 3 tomorrow and number 5 on Thursday. So let's do workflow 4 payment failure. So in the trigger, you're going to select ThriveCart as the app. You're going to go ahead and look for failed, recurring payment failed. You can see here that it triggers both when it's a subscription and also when it's a split pay, or for example, a course of some kind or offer of some kind. Okay, I'm going to click on continue, and here we're going to select the specific product that we want. It could be an upsell as well, but for the purposes of this video, I created a test product that we're testing. So we're going to go ahead, click continue. It's going to prompt us to test the trigger. Going to test it. Going to pull up the most recent data point that it can pull up, and we're going to go ahead and continue. The second step we outlined here was the counter. Now the counter, we will have it as a storage by Zapier, which is one of the tools that we're going to use here. There's a event called increment value, and you can define a particular key. We're going to create a key that's unique to this person and their specific invoice and the specific subscription ID that relates to what they bought. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. So we're going to have an order ID that comes here. We're going to have underscore, and we're going to have the item ID. The reason why I do it that way, I'll show you in a bit. Okay, it's going to make sense. So I'm going to add 1. And what this is going to do, every time this person fails to pay for this particular product, it's going to increment this key by 1. And we will be able to reference to that key later. So let's continue. We can test it out. You see that it's 2 because I had tested this a little earlier, but that went through successfully. Now, as you saw in this flow chart, now we have 2 different paths depending on the number that came back to us. Okay. What we're going to do here is going to create paths. I'm going to call the path A first payment failure. So this is the path we're going to take the first time people fail to pay, or another way of saying that is with the value of the step number 2 that we're seeing here equals 1. Then we're going to have here nth payment failure. And for the purposes of this video, I'm going to use equals 2. Just so I can test quicker, okay? You might want to use, I encourage you to use 4, potentially even 5, depending on how many times the payment processor tries to build people. As far as I know, PayPal and Stripe try 4 to 5 times. Those are the numbers I would suggest. So here I'm gonna go ahead and select a value. I'm gonna say here, when the value exactly matches 1, it's when I want to go through this path. Okay, in this case, it's gonna tell me, oh, it would not have continued because it's 2, but that's okay. We can still build this particular path. And what we're gonna do here is gonna create or update the ActiveCampaign contact. Remember, we want to add the tag here so that we can start encouraging this particular customer to update their billing information. We're going to click on create or update contact as the event, select the particular ActiveCampaign account. I'm going to select clients as the lists. And here we're going to select the email address of the particular person that just failed to pay. Okay. Then here on tag, I'm going to get this tag right here and event. payment failure update info series. I'm gonna click on continue. I'm gonna skip this test because we're gonna test this on real life, in the real world. And something else you want to do at this point is to make sure to have the active campaign automation in place so that when that tag is added, the subsequent emails go through. I'm gonna show you real quick how that looks like so you can replicate that for yourself. So as you can see here, this is the example of the automation that's relevant for workflows number 4 and 5. We're building 4 right now. And when this person is tagged with this, when a contact gets tagged with this event payment failure update info series, we're going to send in an email. You can have a series of emails here, just adding waiting periods and other emails. And we're going to have at the bottom is that if this tag doesn't exist anymore, that is, if we remove it, we're going to end this automation. And this will come in handy a little later, as you're going to see. So let's build the second path. The second path will be when this particular number is not 1 anymore. So we've tried multiple attempts to charge them. As I said earlier, I would encourage you to use 4 or 5. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to use 2. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and test that and continue. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to automatically cancel their subscription. Okay, so I'm gonna put ThriveCart. In ThriveCart, you're gonna see an API request event. Okay, so you're gonna click on that. And what we're going to do here is we're going to find the relevant URL and HTTP method related canceling a subscription. And you're going to see why earlier we used subscription ID, item ID, and order ID because it comes handy here. So we're going to open up that API documentation and we're going to look for cancel a subscription. Okay. On cancel a subscription, you'll notice, 3 things. We have the URL right here. We have in big cap letter the fact that it's a post. So we already have 2 of the important parameters we need. Okay. And here you see in the body, you'll have the order ID, which is something we talked about earlier, and the subscription ID. Okay. So I'll just have to add order underscore ID. Actually copy paste it, just make sure we don't any typos, mistakes. And here we're going to look for those values right here. The item, the subscription ID, it's actually the item ID, something I had to figure it out by myself. I just saved that time right there. I'm not going to test this right now because we're going to test it in real life. Hey guys, sorry to interrupt here. I just found out that actually the item ID is not the right number. There is a subscription ID, but unfortunately, ThriveCart doesn't give you that on the trigger of the recurring payments canceled. Instead, you have to find it yourself. And here's how you go about doing it. In the first step, you're going to go ahead, select the API request data, and you're going to get all the transactions that are rebuilds. What this is going to allow you to do is that the first transaction in this list will be the transaction that just failed. That's the only thing you need to add here. And you're going to get a list of all the transactions that are rebuilds. And the first one will be the one that failed that relates to the product in question. You'll notice that there's a subscription ID that unfortunately that number is not available on the data that Zapier gives you, and that's the actual number. So I'm going to go ahead from there. I pick a formatter utilities. I choose the first value from a list. I give it that list of subscription IDs, and only then I'm able to create a webhook in this case, host with the same URL we had discussed, with the same data we had discussed, which is the order ID that it is available in that first step, but the subscription ID that I will be taking now from that last step. And here, since I did a webhook rather than the native API request, I do have to ask some authorization. They use better authorization, and just if you haven't done that in the past, just know that you have to add the word better space and then your API key in a authorization header. And your API key is easily found going to your ThriveCart account, going to settings, going to API and webhooks, clicking here on view settings, and here you're able to create your API key. You would create whatever it is that you have to create, and you go ahead and copy that into this. And I just ran that through and it went through successfully. Just keep in mind that small little detail that you may want to change if you want to implement this automation. as is. And I use a debit card that I just withdraw all the funds from. You have to do crazy things for YouTube of time. So this is what this particular workflow will look like. What I've done is I actually subscribe myself to a daily subscription of $1. So what we're going to do is I'm going to simply, let me show you that I actually did that just to make sure that you can see. And what we're going to do, let me pause this real quick. Okay, so as you can see, I have a daily subscription, $1 a day, and this person bought on the 27th, this simulated person, and also bought again today or paid again today, and that rebuild went through successfully. I just withdraw all the funds for that account, and as I said, and tomorrow this system is gonna try again. And when it tries again, this particular workflow should trigger, and we're gonna see if it goes through successfully. So I'll see you tomorrow. I am back. This is the next day, and as you can see, here's the failed rebuild. The particular person's broke. They have no money in this account. Either credit card failed or whatever it might be. It failed, and we were unable to charge them. And if I look at the Zap history, we can see that every step ran successfully. We had now a key that's unique to them that's telling us how many times their payment has failed, and we can see that the path that ran was the one about the first payment failure, in which we tag them with this particular event. So that ran successfully. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to wait for the second rebuild, and based on what we set up, that rebuild will cancel the membership automatically. And as we discussed, once that cancel the membership automatically, that's going to trigger another Zap, which I'm going to discuss in the next video. So stay tuned for that. Make sure to comment that below if you have any questions, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.